Good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to give everyone a minute or two to get connected, and we will get started. Okay, let's get going here. As a kind reminder, tonight's event is being recorded. The recording will be available for playback on the NBC Palm Springs digital network through the election. Audience video will be turned off and audio muted during this event to help protect the integrity of the digital stream. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. As a service to our community, the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce is proud to host tonight's Desert Healthcare District and Foundation Board of Directors Candidate Forum. My name is Diana Soto. I'm the Vice President and Director of Public Policy for the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce and will be the MC for tonight. The candidate speaking order for tonight's event was determined in alphabetical order. However, based on attendance, the only person that we have or candidate that we have in attendance today is Crystal Granados. So I'm going to avoid that 2 paragraphs of information. We're going to go straight into introductions. Crystal, you have 3 minutes to give us an introduction. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Diana. I really appreciate the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce hosting this candidates forum and appreciate the opportunity to share why I'm running and who I am. So again, my name is Crystal Granados. I have lived in the Coachella Valley for my entire life. I am the CEO of the United Way of the Desert, and my vocational calling really stems from my deep, really love of this valley and the appreciation of this valley's can-do spirit and its optimism. And it really, I think it drives our community to care about one another really deeply. I, as a director for the Desert Healthcare District, I would apply my lifelong understanding of our community. I would call upon my longstanding relationships and my 25 years of professional experience to serve the residents of Zone 3. As I mentioned, I am proud to serve as the CEO of the United Way of the Desert, where I get to lead my organization's fight for the education, financial stability, and health of every resident in the Valley. And I work every single day. I'm really blessed to follow my passion to build a brighter future for everyone in the Valley. A little bit about myself. I was born in Indio. I was raised in La Quinta before it was even a city, so that probably ages me a little bit, or it gives away my age maybe. I graduated from Indio High School. I attended College of the Desert, and I hold a certificate of nonprofit management from the University of California, Riverside. I'm also a graduate of Leadership Coachella Valley in 2002. Prior to serving as the CEO of my organization, I volunteered for 17 years on the United Way of the Desert Community Impact Committee. I also served on their board of directors for 5 years. I've dedicated my entire life in the Valley to nurturing our community, and I've served as a volunteer on dozens of local organizations, and I've served as a board member of several nonprofit boards, including the Cathedral City Chambers of Commerce and the Indian Wells Chamber of Commerce. I currently serve as the board secretary for the Palm Desert Chamber of Commerce. I'm a board member for Lift to Rise, and I'm a board advisor to Leadership Coachella Valley. I live in Palm Desert with my husband of 30 years. He's a commander with the Riverside County District Attorney's Bureau of Investigations for the last 13 years, 17 years prior to that, he served with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. I believe that my personal experience, my personal dedication, my professional experience really make me the candidate of choice for Desert Healthcare District Zone 3. I have 30 seconds. Okay, thank you, Rebecca. This is more like a conversation than anything else. My deep understanding of the Valley is really what drives my, and I understand the work that it takes to bring together individuals, municipalities, organizations to really move the needle and get things done. I will provide effective leadership, community-based solutions, community-grounded leadership to work for the health and well-being of every resident in the Valley.
That is, and time's up.
Yay.
That is quite a resume. Very, very impressive. And I have to say that I doubt that there is no one that doesn't know Crystal Granados because of her affiliations and all of her contributions. So as a community, we thank you for that. Thank you so, so much. For our first question of the night, let's get right into COVID and its impact on our Valley residents. When a pandemic strikes, it puts your healthcare district and healthcare apparatus as a whole front and center. Your critique of how the Valley was handled this healthcare, what is your critique of how the Valley was handled this healthcare emergency? What role should the district play, and have you been pleased with their efforts to date?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. I think our region's hospitals, our health infrastructure, it's been tested. And I think a couple of things. First, I think we saw the phenomenal capacity and the leadership that our Coachella Valley healthcare organizations and institutions have. I really appreciate everything that they what they displayed, that from our FQHCs to our health leadership. I think the district has played a role, and it's been the role exactly as it should have been, and it's been a critical one. They've supported the healthcare actors who are already at play. They've made things easier. They've made things faster and more aligned and anchored, and they really knit together all of the players to really make things happen in response to COVID. We've really witnessed that the district's investment in testing in bringing testing to the Valley, the testing equipment, the investment there, and really the district threw all of its full weight in behind making sure that testing was available to the Valley. And they were also at the front line of making sure the funding was available for organizations like Desert AIDS Project and Borrego and Clinicus to really help build the infrastructure to meet the demand for the COVID testing that we needed. And so I think their job and what the district has done has been phenomenal, as well as our healthcare actors and players here in the Valley. But I think secondly, the pandemic has really exposed the disparities that in the Coachella Valley around healthcare, particularly the lack of infrastructure in our Eastern Coachella Valley. It's been difficult. It was difficult for families to reach the healthcare access and access that they needed for the testing. And the healthcare district was a vitally important player in making sure that that happened. And someone who personally knows the ravages of COVID-19 and the impact that it had on my own health. I am a COVID-19 recovering still from COVID-19. I know how important it is to continue the testing, how important it is that the healthcare district still plays the role that it's playing, because it's going to take all of us. I think what COVID also exposed is that we're all in this together, and that our health is dependent on one another. And so I think we need to continue this role, and the healthcare district is committed. I know that they are, and I appreciate that commitment, because we need to continue the cohesive fight against the spread of COVID together. That's the only way we're going to win.
Thank you. Thank you for those remarks. Caring for the homeless population in the Coachella Valley continues to be a challenge, from available funding for shelters to properly addressing underlying physical and mental health issues. What should we be doing to better address this issue?
Yeah, addressing homelessness is one thing. Solving for it is another. So we have to address the vulnerability of what's in front of us, the immediate needs of our homeless population, but we also have to have the responsibility of looking upstream and really addressing the root causes of homelessness and solve for those systemic and structural issues that are really underlying this challenge. I think we can all acknowledge that we've seen a dramatic increase in homelessness across the Valley the last several years. And there are many, many associated physical and mental health issues. But we have to recognize here that homelessness at its function is a function of, just in almost every single way, a lack of affordable housing, a lack of homes, and of shelter that people can afford. So there's a population of folks that, yes, housing is not the only solution. we have to recognize that nearly 50% of our population here in the Coachella Valley is at risk for homelessness. And that's been exacerbated by COVID-19. It's because they are economically vulnerable. And so we have a massive amount of our population who just struggle to make ends meet. They struggle to keep up with rent, not because of underlying mental health issues, but because we don't have the housing that people need and that the housing that people can afford. But there are different needs. There's different approaches. What I really appreciate about the Desert Healthcare District, and I know, is that they approach it in both a long-term and a short-term sense, and that they support the Coachella Valley Association of Governments Homelessness Committee and the work that they do around the housing first approach, which is critically needed to move families into transitional housing and really meet their immediate needs. And then they look long-term, and the work that they do with Lift to Rise and being a part of Lift to Rise's regional plan to keep folks housed and to bring affordable housing, radically increase the affordable housing units that we have in the Valley.
Thank you. One of the district's stated goals is to address the healthcare needs of the Coachella Valley's traditionally underserved populations. Sadly, factors such as geographic location and socioeconomic status still plague our residents' ability to access much needed healthcare. How can the district move the needle in this area?
Well, I think the district's already demonstrated that they are deeply committed to moving the needle in this area. In May of 2020, the district adopted the One Coachella Valley Resolution, which really allowed them to implement the equitable consideration of their grant funding and their partnerships, and really based on community needs. And so the district recognized that particularly the Eastern Coachella Valley, just a little context here, the district previous boundaries were Cook Street in Palm Desert. The voters approved the expansion of the district to include the Eastern Coachella Valley in 2018. The district recognized that the Eastern Coachella Valley had been negatively impacted by not being included in the district boundaries previously. And so because of that expansion, the district's now financially is able to support financially the organizations that are on the ground, that are working in the Eastern Coachella Valley to really address those needs and to be responsive to all of our community needs, everyone in the community. So I think that, similar to my role at United Way of the Desert as CEO, and our organization, the district understands that to serve our underserved populations, it requires, and areas, it requires more investment, that we have to apply an equity lens to how we invest our programs and our partnerships. And I'm really proud that the district is doing that, as is United Way of the Desert, because affordable housing, economic stability, health, those are all issues of equity. And until we really implement our equity lens in all of the work that we do as organizations across the Valley, then we're not going to be able to solve for the disparities. I'll just provide a really quick example of United Way of the Desert that comes from our United Way of the Desert. In response to COVID-19, we released emergency rental assistance funding for residents across the Valley. We of course, had many applications, and of the applications that we received, 50% of them were from the Eastern Coachella Valley. However, if you look at per city, the third highest city in terms of application requests for residents came from the city of Palm Desert. So what we understand is that barriers and poverty exist throughout the Coachella Valley, and we have to address removing all of them across the Valley with our investment. So the district's role is critical to removing these barriers. And the district also has the ability to invest in long-term strategies that would mean that we would have better outcomes for our entire Valley. I think what I know, what my organization knows, what this district knows, and what we should all understand is that your zip code should not determine your health.
Thank you. With the current COVID state of emergency, the term food insecurity has made its way into the mainstream. Lack of access to proper nutrition was already an issue for many in our valley. It has been exacerbated with job losses, school closings, and other factors relating to COVID. It has been an area where the district has traditionally leveraged local partnerships to make an impact. How would you continue to foster these regional collaborations in addressing issues like hunger?
The district has played a vital role in collaboration. My organization, United Way of the Desert, has as well. We've worked for many years with our partners. We are so fortunate in this valley to have the leadership of Find Food Bank, our regional food, our regional Desert's regional food bank. They have, what we have witnessed with Find Food Bank is their tremendous leadership and what they've been able to accomplish in response to COVID, being able to pivot so quickly to the dramatic increase in demand and needs for our residents. So they've expanded mobile sites. They've also had to manage through delivery of food with the COVID regulations and ensuring that they're doing so safely. It's been tremendous to see what they've been able to do for our community, and for the district playing that vital role of bringing together all of the partners to address food insecurity, being that playing that supporting role to Find and to other partners like Joslyn and Mizell with their Meals on Wheels programs, being able to fund and support those organizations that are directly dealing with food insecurity and helping our residents. It's a tremendously important role that funders like United Way and the district play. There are also effects of food insecurity. It's not just about the food. And what the district recognizes, what Find Food Bank recognizes, and United Way of the Desert recognizes, is that it's not just a financial impact. It's not just a food insecurity impact, but it's really the mental and physical well-being of a family. So understanding that we have to address all of those issues as we talk about long-term COVID recovery, the mental stress, and the trauma that's impacted upon families who are just struggling with how am I going to feed my family? That is a tremendous stress. And so the role of the district and organizations like mine, is to ensure that the monetary support, the access to resources for organizations who are directly dealing and helping families with both the food insecurity as well as the mental and physical traumas of food insecurity is vitally important. Okay.
Thank you. Most of our questions tonight have been on the topic of health, but let's shift into one of the other responsibilities of a board, fiduciary management. The healthcare district has a lot of money and assets that they are responsible for. Grant allocations to actual infrastructure. How would you assess the district's finances? If elected, what would your approach to financial management be? And how would you go about expanding the district's financial revenue resources?
That's a really great question. What we have to recognize here, even from the questions that I've already answered previously, is that this is a time of just such great uncertainty and unease. The pandemic has really illustrated to us that we have really deep and longstanding disparities around health, and it will take bold moves by the district, by others in the valley, to really drastically change the landscape of the valley and what's to come, so that we can recover. I think the district is obviously in a stable fiscal status currently, but it does have major decisions to make in relationship to the partnership with Desert Regional Medical Center. DRMC is a major asset to our community. It's a major asset for the district. My role as a director would be to be committed to evaluating all of the options, listening to community leadership, and be committed to doing what's best for the community. And I think ultimately, it's going to be up to voters to decide. I would ensure that whatever we bring to the voters as a board, that it reflects the best interests of our community. And I think the long term, though, the board the district board needs to be responsive to the community and also understand that the district can't do everything that needs to be done. No one organization can. So the district needs to continue to be more inclusive, seek out additional partnerships and strategic use of district funds to invest in really long-term strategies, but that are bold and innovative, that can have the power to change disparities into thriving communities. So we have to recognize things that are already being done that are bold and innovative, and with partners like Desert AIDS Project and Lift to Rise. The district's been so really vitally important to those organizations and being able to help move the work forward, and for many organizations across the valley. The district can be the catalyst for taking all of these disparities and changing them into opportunities for our valley to thrive.
Thank you, Crystal. Well, tonight's forum has been very unique in that you are the only candidate that is speaking. We have reached the point where we would allow for closing remarks. Any closing remarks for the group?
Sure, I always have something to say.
The floor is yours.
For anybody that knows me on the call, no, I do want to thank the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce again for this opportunity to host these very important candidate forums. I guess I'm honored to be included in the candidate forum, but honored to be the only candidate, I guess, who's on tonight. But I also want to share, just in my closing statements, how much I love our valley. I think I've said that. I can't say it enough. And this role as a Desert Healthcare District Director is an extension of the work, and it's a build upon of the work and my life that I've already that I've done here in the valley. My commitment, my approach to inclusive community, finding community solutions to community problems. This is an extension, and I believe my professional experience and my personal dedication really do make me the candidate of choice for our community. I know that I am deeply committed to transparent leadership, accountability, and ensuring that our community voices are heard. That we have to keep in mind that our community is made up of the individuals and the residents who live here, and their voice is vitally needed and has to be at the table for decisions. And so I think that's important to remember. And I am also just pleased to share that I've received wonderful support from community leaders across the valley for my and have endorsed me for this role, including leadership in Cathedral City, Mayor John Aguilar and Councilmember Rita Lamb. I also have the support of Councilmember Steve Sanchez in La Quinta, Council members Sabby Jonathan and Kathleen Kelly in Palm Desert, and our current Desert Healthcare Board President Letty DeLara has also endorsed my candidacy, and there's more, but I wanted to recognize those with our group. So I hope that I have earned your trust. I hope that I have earned your vote. And I look forward for those that I don't know, getting to know you and listening to you and really serving the residents of Zone 3.
Well, thank you very much, Crystal, for your comments and your willingness to spend some time with us tonight to share your positions. As a reminder to the audience, tonight's event will be available for replay at nbcpalmsprings.com as soon as it is posted. Once again, thank you to our candidate and our audience. And as a reminder from the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce to everyone, please vote. Have a great night. Thank you. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone on the call. I appreciate you joining us.